Hi, I'm Abraham Lincoln, and my aim was to preserve the Union and end the Civil War as quickly as possible. I promise an easy Reconstruction plan so that the Southern states will agree to surrender. If 10% of the people of a state in the South will pledge their allegiance to the United States of America and ratify the 13th Amendment, which abolishes slavery, then I'll let them form a new state government, elect representatives to Congress, and fully participate in the Union again. However, I was assassinated. African Americans' aims and goals were different of Southern whites and often of the United States Congress. African Americans wanted to consolidate their families and communities, establish networks of churches and other autonomous institutions, and stake a claim to equal citizenship, which included access to land and education, as well as carve out as much independence as possible in their working lives. The aim of Congress for Reconstruction was different. They wanted to ensure the Civil War had not been fought in vain and that freed slaves would indeed be free. They refused to allow former Confederates elected as senators and representatives by Southern states to take their seats in Congress. They passed a bill extending the Freedmen's Bureau so that they can continue to protect the rights against the Black Codes. President Johnson vetoed the bill, but Congress overrode the veto. Congress passed the 14th Amendment, which recognized citizenship. When Congress passed the 14th Amendment, it gave due process of the law and equal protection of the law to African Americans. Southern states refused to ratify this amendment, and President Johnson campaigned against it during the congressional elections of 1866. Because the violence against freedmen were described in northern newspapers, voters decided to elect Republicans to Congress to protect themselves. The Republican Congress established a new Reconstruction policy calling for military occupation of the southern states. Southern states were required to write new constitutions that would recognize the 14th Amendment and the rights of African American citizens. This congressional Reconstruction policy has been called Radical Reconstruction. That was a term that was used by Southern critics to discredit congressional Reconstruction by labeling it radical or excessive.
Johnson. When did he become president? Well, he became president when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. Was his plan the same? His basic Reconstruction plan was the same, but his aim was different. He wanted Southerners who owned large amounts of money, of property, to ask for a presidential pardon. He wanted the Southern elite to acknowledge his power, but granted these pardons easily. When Congress was not in session, he allowed the Southern states to form new state governments. Wow!